Welcome to Herschel Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 232 of the podcast.
Yeah, and today we are talking about some myths, right? Some things that you sometimes hear the gurus talk about, some ways to make money and how easy reselling is and how you can, get $1 million and drive a Ferrari and get your own private jet. And we're also going to be talking about some of the things that people hate on with reselling and why they're wrong. So we'd like you to, in the comments below, let us know what's your biggest pet peeve when it comes to the gurus. Because I'm sure if you're watching our YouTube and you've got ads, you probably see some of those someone pulling up in their Lambo, or maybe they're even being humble. They're humble bragging. They're like, I'm not going to stand here in front of a Lambo and tell you that I make a bunch of money.
Oh, you've seen that ad.
Yeah. So there's all of those. But what's your biggest pet peeve? What's the thing that you think is the biggest misunderstanding about reselling as far as that goes? Let us know in the comments. And while you're doing that, make sure to like and subscribe, okay? Because we are putting out a lot more content. And if you hit that notification bell after you subscribe, you will get notified when we produce new videos. And I think that'd be really helpful so that hey, Herschel Podcast just put out something new. So subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And that would be super amazing.
Now, before we get started, I do want to share we have a new sponsor affiliate to the podcast, and I was waiting on this one. A lot of you that follow us on Instagram had noticed I had shared these big ol', I don't know if it was 4 feet. I was going to say 7 feet. That'd be pretty massive, but still 4 feet's pretty big, of bubble wrap. And a lot of people were asking me, where'd you get that from? And I kind of was like, I don't know if I can share yet. Trying to work a sponsorship deal. And finally, was able to connect with AmericanBubbleBoy.com. They're an incredible company. They were just trying to get things sorted out, and they wanted to wait for the right moment. So AmericanBubbleBoy.com is the best deal for bubble wrap on the internet. We're not just saying that because they're sponsoring us. I personally buy from American Bubble Boy. You can get 700 square feet, $39.99, free shipping. If you're close enough, you can get next day shipping because they've just opened warehouses in different parts of the country. So we have no, special promo code or anything, but if you use the direct link in this YouTube, you will be able to get that for $39.99. It's cheaper. If you go to Amazon, you're going to be paying $5 extra. There's Amazon fees. But if you go directly through our link, you'll get that great pricing, and it's quality stuff.
Yeah, and it's still going to be free, and you're still going to get it in the same time you'd get it through Amazon.
The shipping will be free.
Yeah. The shipping will be free. Well, I guess I should have clarified that. But all right. So thank you so much. So I think we're going to be talking about these gurus first before we get to the haters. And I'll tell you what, I've got some big pet peeves when it comes to the haters. But what do we got first with these gurus?
Okay. I do want to share something, though, before we get started. So I appreciate the feedback. We wanted to do these whole, have a TikTok on the side and I don't know if the right word is lay waste or just blast off people, but a lot of you said that's not kind of your brand. Heard some people on social media tell us that too, and we agree, and we still may do.
Maybe. We'll see.
We still do, but I thought this was a healthy discussion that we could have.
Yeah,
about these.
So instead of calling out specific people and saying this person is selling you a bunch of nonsense, bunch of malarkey, and pretending it's...
Who uses the word malarkey anymore?
Who knows? But pretending like it's great. Instead of saying their name, we're just going to give concepts and ideas that are pretty general, and you'll know it when you see it. And I think it's a nicer way to be honest. And if we're wrong, maybe there's a couple of these that you say, actually there's some truth to that, or maybe there's some that we don't cover, we don't talk about. Again, let us know in the comments because we'd love to have that discussion going. Yeah.
All right. So the first one that I hear all the time is anyone can do it.
Well, more specifically, it's so easy. Anyone can do it. Because
that's
honestly,
true. I forgot about the easy part.
Because honestly, most people, pretty much anybody can, right? And you got to qualify that with, when you say anybody, you're assuming that anybody's going to take the right steps, that they're going to be willing to make the sacrifices necessary. And anybody is capable of that, but most people aren't willing to. And the idea is trying to sell reselling as easy. Now, compared to a lot of businesses, I would have to agree that reselling is relatively easy. I mean, it's
easier.
It's simple. And here's the thing. I often have, at the beginning of a school year, I do this writing prompt where I have students describe the difference between simple and easy. And there's a difference, right? Because simple means it's not complex. There's not tons of steps involved. Whereas easy means that it's not challenging. And the reality is reselling is relatively simple. You find something that doesn't cost a lot of money, and you buy it and you sell it for more than you bought it for, right? That's a simple concept. But going out every day and doing the grind and doing the research and learning how to ship and dealing with customer service and learning new platforms, that can be a little bit of grind and hard work and challenge. It's simple, but it's not always easy.
True. And so I wanted to share this too, that many of you are new and you came across our podcast, specifically if you came from TikTok. Right now, any new kind of social media that pops up on the scene is when all the gurus show up. I mean, you see it in Clubhouse. If you've been able to get on Clubhouse, it's like how to make $1 million on Amazon, how to leave your 9 to 5, how to do this, right? It's like, yeah, you can do this. But it is a hustle. And so a lot of these are kind of interconnected that we're going to talk about, these comments. But I wanted to reiterate the fact that whether it's you are reselling from the thrift, garage sales, we're going to talk about drop shipping a little bit, whether you're doing drop shipping, private label, it all does take work. It takes some kind of organization. It takes some kind of hustle. It takes a constant diligence to the matter. One thing I talk about all the time is having a pivot. It's not, one size fits everyone. And here you go, get the eBay app, just show up in a thrift store, and within moments, you're going to come out and you're going to make a ton of profit. Now, are there those instances where, your first time in, like Mike experiences, if you go to episode 1, right? Mike
picked up going to episode 1.
I know, do be careful. But you picked up an item you flip for like close to 100.
Yeah.
Right. And you picked up there was a duck decoy in there. I mean, you had
some sweet finds.
I don't believe in luck, but in that scenario, that was luck.
Yeah. I mean,
you did have to search though. It did take some work.
And in my defense, we probably went to 25 garage sales that day and a thrift store. I'm going to find something.
That is true. That is true. And there was some guidance from Orlando too. But honestly, there wasn't a lot of guidance. You went after stuff that I wasn't even going to look for. Right.
That's right.
So I want to reiterate the fact that yes, just because, you see a video and people are flexing and like, hey, I picked up this thing at the thrift for $1 and I sold it for 50. That is not the day to day. I can tell you right now. I mean, I did have a terrible day where I think I made $30 and I'm a full-time person. So $30, if I were to have $30 in sales every single day, this is on eBay, by the way. I do have other platforms, but on eBay, that's it. I'd be in a really tough place, right? So it requires work. It requires me listing. It requires me constantly sourcing. It requires me looking at inventory and going, okay, do I need to drop the price on this? So I need to make sure that I'm sourcing differently. Am I sticking to my old ways? It's not as easy as it seems, but it is definitely doable.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think why a lot of people get a little bit disheartened when it comes to reselling is I've heard recent studies where people are kind of trying to figure out like the amount of work people are doing, the kind of work people are doing. And more people are working longer hours. They're putting in more effort at work. And they've kind of come to the conclusion that, I don't remember the exact numbers, but all these recent studies, Pew studies, and they basically said that people, even employers, but especially the employees, kind of look at the work they're doing and they kind of say it's easy-ish in the sense of like, I'm not really accomplishing much, doesn't take a lot of work, and it's kind of pointless. I'm doing a lot of pointless work that doesn't even really benefit anybody. And most people in workplaces are only putting in a couple of hours of actual work, right? They're putting in a couple hours of work and then they spend a lot of time on YouTube. They put a lot of time on, whatever it is. They spend a bunch of time, texting, talking to people at the water cooler, playing on YouTube, being on Instagram on their phone.
Listing on eBay.
Yeah, and well, that would be nice. But they're only doing a couple of hours work. Now, that doesn't mean everybody. Some people are they have difficult jobs. You're a construction worker and you're moving heavy stuff all day long, or maybe you're in an office where it's just nonstop. You're a lawyer or something like that. So not everybody, but a lot of people who are stuck in the 9 to 5 kind of just say like, it feels like my job takes forever because I'm watching a clock and it's like, I've got 4 more hours. I got 2 more hours. And they think that reselling in a sense is going to be, it's going to just be a lot of doing nothing. Well, the good thing about reselling is the work you put in is going to benefit, but you're going to actually have to work for 8 hours in a day if you want to go full time to start with. Right?
Especially, and we'll talk about that. But in the beginning, yes, it's a lot of work.
You can't just like put in 2 hours of work and then 6 hours of just scrolling on your phone, right? Like you can do at a 9 to 5 job and nobody really notices. So that I think is part of the problem is you're actually going to have to work the hours that, you might not be working now.
Yeah. So is it doable? Yes. Can you get to a place that anyone can do it. Yes, but there's like the asterisk, right? There's the hustle, there's the time involvement, there's the ability to pivot, there's the dedication, and plenty of other things that you could put in that footnote. Now, the other one, this is the one I love the most. So this is more geared towards Amazon, but I'm seeing this so much. I'm going after these TikTok gurus because it bothers me because TikTok is aimed towards a younger generation. I feel so old saying that, but it's very much Gen Z focused for the most part, right? And you see people like, yeah, you go into Marshalls and they take out their phone and they scan. They're like, hey, this item, it costs $5 and it's selling for $20, and after fees, I'm gonna make $14 or something like that. I mean, I'm being exaggerated, and here's the thing: it is not that easy. It is definitely risky if you're going in and you're paying, even on Amazon, even if you're buying something for $5 and you're selling it for $20, that is still risky because you have to count the fact that, okay, Amazon is going to take their fees. All right. So if they take their fees, let's say they take 25%. So you paid $5 for the item. And then let's say eBay takes, Amazon. Okay, I'm going, it's generally about 30%, right? But let's go with 20% for this one, right? So out of $5, $1.50, right? So now we're up to $6.50. And then on top of that, you have to ship the item. So let's say it costs you 50 cents, right? You have $7, right? And then on top of that, let's say you get some returns, right? And those returns are, for the most part, it's going to be a loss unless you're able to fix something, you're able to sell it on eBay. It's a hot product. And here's the one that the gurus are not telling you. There's two of them. One is when Amazon gets on the listing, it will tank the price immediately. Right? I mean, we've all been, this is not an Bellow, the Mr. Potato Heads. Okay. Well, no longer Mr. Potato Heads. Rest in peace.
No, they're back.
They're back?
It didn't actually change.
Oh, it didn't change? No. I thought it changed. Okay, I was about to say RIP, but okay. And by the way, Mr. Potato Head, anyways, all right. So Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head, they were selling for good money, and you can get them on Amazon, and the ranking was super low. But here's the thing: guess who got on that rank? Who got on the item? Amazon, and Amazon was selling it for, I believe it was $7.99 or $8.99. And if you could find them at Walmart, they were $5, and you could resell them. I was able to find a few. You could resell them on Amazon for like $20 to $30. On eBay, if you had both potato heads, you can sell it for $40. But eBay is not going to jump on the listing, right?
Yeah, but other resellers will. But when it comes to Amazon, for instance, yeah. So I think that's one big thing. Amazon jumping on the listing.
And I was going to get to the same one. Go ahead, though.
So that is a big thing. But a lot of times, these TikTok people, they're going in, maybe they're finding something on clearance. So it might not necessarily be something that Amazon is gonna put on, they're gonna jump on the listing. But like my wife and I, when we were first looking at trying to do Amazon, we find an item, it's $5 at Target. And we're like, oh my goodness, this sells for $18 on Amazon. But like you're saying, once you count in the cost it's gonna be for us to ship it to them, once they take their fee, once, the ship, all of that, it's like our actual profit is like 55 cents. So yeah, a lot of times they'll show you like, buy this for $5, it sells for 17. And it's like, well, your profit isn't really there. So yeah, you got to be careful because they don't always show you everything.
But even if it is, let's say Amazon never gets on the listing. Once other sellers get on the listing, it will be a race to the bottom. Right? And I can tell you, I have lost thousands of dollars with that, in the sense that, I got in and there were maybe 10 sellers on it. And by the time somebody on TikTok or Instagram or on social media or a cook group, especially cook groups, once cook groups get a hold of it, it's pretty much the end. Because what happens is you have, loose lips sink ships, right? And I don't know what we'll say for cook groups, but once you get 2 or 3 people in the cook group sharing with other people outside of the cook group, there's no stopping that wildfire of information. And so that information takes off. And the listing just goes down and down and down and down. And then you're playing a stop loss game where you're just trying to prevent your losses from happening. And so when you watch these, you got to be careful. It's not as easy as going in and scanning and going, hey, this is profitable. All right, sending us off to Amazon and I'm going to make a whole lot of money. This is why a lot of Amazon sellers go to wholesale, because it's safer, right? There's only so many people purchasing wholesale, which kind of now I think it's getting even more competitive, because a lot of people that were doing wholesale now have showed people how to do wholesale. And so now they're figuring that out. And it's really, there's not much to wholesaling. You just got to Google wholesale companies and just find the right connection and you can start doing that. and by the way, I'm not a guru. I'm not selling a course. I'm just saying this has always been around. It's just a lot of people, taking those steps is a difficult one. But I want you to be careful. Now, are there items where I can have gone in, and for example, this last Q4 where I found something for $50 and it was selling for $300 and there was only like 10 people on the listing and I was able to sell, about $70K? Yes, that does happen. The clippers, right? The clippers that I talked about and multiple times, I found those at a Costco. I paid $35. They were selling for $90 at its peak. And I was able to make, I forget how much money, but I made several $1,000s. I think it was close to, no, it was over $50K. I don't remember what it was, $57K. And yes, those do happen, but that took a lot of work. It took a lot of sourcing. It took several hours. I had to travel throughout the country. And you just, when it comes to those smaller items, it's hard. Now, the last part, and we'll move on from this one, is not everybody's ungated. And yes, I know now we have the ability. I mean, we've talked about some of the wholesale sources that you can get distribution from. You can get those invoices, but there's more to it. Like Amazon right now, and we talked about this on the last podcast, has been dropping all these compliance notices on everyone. And I've had plenty of my Amazon listings pulled. Luckily, I sold through those items and I'm just selling some of the leftovers on Amazon or, locally. But I'm telling you, you got to understand it is not that easy. It takes a lot of work. And yes, they may sell you invoices. But if Amazon ever comes around and starts investigating, you might be in for some hurt. So be aware. Now, a lot of money made on Amazon. I make a ton of money on Amazon. But what I'm trying to dispel is the myth that it's super easy as going into a store and scanning and finding something profitable. All right, drop shipping.
Ooh, this is so yeah, a lot of times people talk about like this is the easiest way. And to be honest, I don't have experience as a drop shipper. I don't have any experience using the tools, the bots, and I know there's a lot that goes into it. So in some ways I'm almost talking out of ignorance because I don't know that world. But to be honest, I've seen enough of the advertisements that are similar to stuff that I do know about. And I'm like, yeah, this kind of seems scammy to me. Now I'm sure there are ways to do drop shipping well. And I'm sure that there's
drop shipping are the Lambo people.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. So there are probably ways to do some kind of drop shipping in a decent way and to be profitable on it. But again, it seems like a lot of work and a lot of upfront money. It seems like to do it well, you're probably paying a bunch of money. You're probably making very small margin returns. So again, all it takes is one or two things to go wrong. You're stuck with it, right? So let's say I'm drop shipping between two parties and the customer wants to return. Well, now I might be the one stuck footing the bill, right?
Let's rewind. Let's explain drop shipping because we may have a lot of people. So drop shipping is, you'll see these videos. So there's basically two ways to drop ship. There's one where you go to Alibaba, you go AliExpress, you find an item that's super cheap that's selling for a good amount on Amazon or on eBay, and then you end up connecting it with another store. You create a Shopify or you use Amazon or eBay, which Amazon, eBay both have rules that are very clear about they do not want drop shipping to happen, even though it still does happen. Okay. Or Shopify, which it's allowed. And so you have that connection between that store. And so something sells, that intermediary website ends up, taking care of the sale for you, contacts, whatever Chinese company, whether it's Alibaba or AliExpress, purchases it and ships it to the individual. Or you have the other way where you have a direct connection. You find something on Walmart, you take those pictures and you post it on your eBay or on your Amazon. And then when it sells, you use, for example, there's various ways, but at Walmart will ship the item to that person. You're not directly shipping it. Walmart is, Home Depot is, and there's all kinds of automation to have this happen where you literally aren't doing much to it.
Yeah, I had some interesting drop shipping. I'm like 90% sure. So, and I'll probably talk about this on our next update episode, but let's just say I had a book that I was selling that was a hot item, a really, really, really hot item over the last week. And there was a lot of just news and interest on this item. And it sold like pretty quickly at like my full asking price. But the person who bought it had zero feedback. And their question was, how fast can you ship this? I get paid tonight. I'll pay, or I get paid tomorrow and I'll send you the money. And so I go, great, this isn't going to be an I'll pay. But then they never ended up paying, never went through. Then we were able to relist it.
So you had drop shippers on the bay.
So here's what I think was happening. I think that this account was set up to buy a bunch of, can you imagine one account buys 5 of these items and then lists all 5 of them for hire.
This must have been a bot.
It may have been, right? And so, to me, I understand what was happening. It kind of makes sense. And I can understand maybe doing this. The problem is it was like a nobody's account. Now, if I want to buy something and speculate, I'm buying this item for $300 and I think it's going to go up to $400. So by the time this person from eBay, since it's me, I'm going to relist it and I'm going to sell it for more, right? That's fine. We do that. That's eBay arbitrage. But if you're trying to do it before you even pay and say, I'll pay you in a little bit, and you list it, and as soon as it sells, then you pay them and you make that shipment happen, that's maybe in some ways it seems like less risk, but what you're really doing is you're tying up that person who you bought it from. Like, it really stinks because now my item's tied up, and I can't relist it until I get the cancellation, and then I have to relist it, and it's a nightmare. So it can be frustrating when people try those things. But that I don't think that's the level of drop shipping that the Lambo peeps are talking about. But I can imagine that if you had a bot doing that, if you had an eBay bot that was buying pretty much every item in a category, and then that person, whoever it is the one relisting them, now they own all 30 of them that are listed right now at a much higher price, and they only end up paying for the ones that sell. Like, it's kind of ingenious.
Okay, so, and again, so are we dispelling the myth? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, no, I mean, it obviously didn't work because I didn't get my money, so nobody bought it.
Oh, okay, so let me share to you why. I always say there are exceptions to the rule to all of these, right? I mean, this wouldn't be a thing unless it actually worked for someone at some point, or multiple people. And there are people, I actually do know a handful of people that do drop shipping and they're successful. I also know a lot of people, I've been personally involved with a lot of people who have had experience with drop shipping and it's been a complete failure, or it was too much. So there's actually some influencers out there who were drop shippers and now they just sell like Nike shoes because it was better to have a real product in their hand that they had control over. Here's some things. If you drop ship, there's a lot of, you are trusting a lot, right? You're trusting that point A is going to ship to point B and there's not going to be any problems. You're also trusting that the person who ends up buying the item is going to seek a return. And, you might say no returns, but as we know, most platforms are going to want you to accept returns, right? Especially if it's something that, you're breaking the rules at. Also, there's a lot of suspensions that happen that people don't talk about. You can get suspended very easily on Amazon and on eBay and multiple platforms. Okay. There's also the idea if you are dropshipping from China, you have no control over the shipping that happens. And I had a friend personally, good friend of ours, who was drop shipping jerseys from China to America, and their feedback went in the tank once their distributor was unable to ship things on time. Also, we have some of our listeners have shared to us that they were drop shippers, and the amount of money that they had to pay for Facebook ads just to get the product out there, just to get, things in front of, people on mobile phones and computer screens, it sucked up a ton of their money where they were only maybe making 5 to 10%, and they stopped drop shipping and they found that reselling, right? What we talk about day in, day out, whether it be retail arbitrage, whether it be going to thrift store, garage sales, even, wholesale or pallets, was far more profitable than drop shipping could ever be, because they were losing a ton of money, and it wasn't guaranteed that just because they spent all that ad money, that sales were going to come through. So in preparing for this, I was thinking about like, okay, do I need to pull up articles I discuss? I decided not to do all that because I think that it's pretty self-evident. All you have to do, you go to these TikTokers, you go to the Instagram people that are doing all this drop shipping, just dig a little deeper. Find out how much are their courses, right? If they're selling their courses for a ton of money, probably a reason why, right? They're probably not doing drop shipping for the sake of that's what made them wealthy. It's the courses that you're buying is what make them wealthy. And actually, there's an NPR report about that they actually researched, and they found out that most drop shippers, the amount of money that they make doesn't come from their reselling, comes from the courses that they're selling on drop shipping.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves is like back in the day, the infomercials with like, you can buy houses and property and whatever it is for pennies on the dollar. You can, for $1,000, this person, they show like, person after person talking about what they bought. So if you take our course for $100, we'll teach you how to do this. And I'm thinking, if this is true, if you have a secret way to buy houses for $1,000 and you're selling the course to people, your competitors, on how to do this for $100, It makes no sense. Like if it was so easy and automated, if the drop shipping was basically you can just set it and forget it, and the more you put in, like if I just dial it up a little bit more and I'm willing to put in a little bit more money and it automates and I'm making way more, then I'm not worried about creating a course and trying to get competitors on this. I'm just going to let that do its thing, right? So anything that's trying to create competitors in that way, Orlando and I really aren't worried about creating competitors when it comes to things like we're going to garage sales, we're going to thrift stores, and we're picking up unique items. And we do get a lot of flack from people saying like, well, why don't you tell us what you're getting with retail arbitrage? Well, it's because we recognize we want to teach people how to fish, and knowing that 90% of people who hear what we say, not our listeners per se, but like people who just hear about reselling aren't going to go out and do it. Right. And we're not going to say like, hey, go to the store, buy this thing, you're going to make a bunch of money, because we want people to realize it is work. We want to teach you how to do it. And we're not really creating competitors in that sense, because it's a hard thing, and you're gonna have to go out and do it.
Yeah, you can't find that one-off item.
Right.
Now, if we did a retail arbitrage, it wouldn't take much.
Right. And so that's why things like the drop shippers, when they're like, I can show you how to do this really quick. You can do this basically any item in this store. You can, well, then do that. Like, don't make a course, right? Like, if you can make millions, like, why are you trying to get $100 from me?
I don't know. It just reminded me of those TikToks where it's like, I don't know if you've seen them, where it's like somebody's like, well, you know, you can make a lot of money in drop shipping, and then they get up and that music, the intense music comes in the background. Well, why don't you do it then? If you're able, actually, we have one like that. But, you know, it's true. It's true. And so look at it. We ourselves, I mean, there may be a day where we do sell something at some point in time. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm very opposed to that personally, because I think there's something to be said about the integrity of us providing content without requiring the people that need the money to get money from it to pay us to figure out how to make that money.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said, though, I think, for like groups, in the sense of like, let's say we were to start a group, and we're to say like, we've got 25 open slots, and we're going to do a 3-month group, and we're going to keep you accountable. We've had people on who have groups like that. I think that's great, because when you got a little bit of skin in the game and you're like, I had to pay $100 for this.
Oh,
group,
I agree.
Now I'm going to go to the Zoom call, right? Because I've paid money for it, and I want to hear what they say. And then I'm going to know that you're taking my advice seriously. And when I'm looking at your store, and if it's just for free and there's no skin in the game, you know, you're probably not going to change. That's why people pay, you know, to do those types of things, and they're more successful. But yeah, when it's, hey, if you pay me $100, I'll give you an automated bot system that's going to make you tens of thousands. That's a very different thing.
Yeah, agreed. All right. We spent a lot of time on that. All right. I love this one, because this one, it's just, again, I say this because maybe Orlando has it all wrong, but the idea that you can go full time in no time. And I will say that is possible, but it is the exception rather than the norm. Okay. Now, there's different tiers. I think there's a greater chance of going full-time reselling, I believe, if you sell on Amazon, because you're able to scale a lot faster, but it requires a lot, right? We talked about the ungating. We talked about being able to get the inventory. We talked about jumping through all of Amazon's hoops. And a lot of you comment below, let us know. I mean, I know there are people that listen to us that said, hey, Orlando, we were all Amazon, and now we've shifted to eBay because it was crazy on Amazon. I believe that to be true myself. Okay. Now, did Amazon give me the opportunity to go full time? It did. In the beginning, it did. If you listen to the podcast, when we were first beginning, I was very much like, most of my income came from Amazon. And then over time, as I built my eBay store, I started removing myself from Amazon, because the hammer of Amazon drops at any time and you don't see it coming. But going full time takes a lot, and we have episodes on this, but there's a lot you have to consider. It's not about just finding items and reselling them. All right, you have to think about the 401k you may be walking away from. You have to think about the medical insurance you're walking away from. You have to think about all the benefits. You have to think about the steady paycheck that you're getting. Right? Are you willing to, you know, give a few days? I just mentioned that you may have a day or two where you make less than $100. Right. Or, you know, if you're full time, right, and you're taking major risk on Amazon, are you willing, like I myself have done, to go out and buy something, you think you're going to make a ton of money, you spend several $1,000s and lose several $1,000s? Are you willing to do that? Right. If you're married with children, are you willing to do that? Right. Because it gets even, I think the weight of the matter becomes even greater, right, when you involve a significant other and you involve children. right? Hey, if I was 20 and on my own, I think I would take a ton of more risk, right? Because you can always rebuild, right? But, if you're older, kind of like me, I hate saying this, but I don't feel like I'm old, but at 41 and I do have children I take care of.
You're
Like,
just getting to your prime, man.
I think I am in my prime. Short. No, I believe that. But it's not that easy. I mean, it took me several years of part-time to go full-time on eBay. Right. I had to understand the processes. I had to understand how to ship quickly. I had to understand how to organize my inventory. I had to figure out what is the best way to source. Like, all those things took time to develop. It wasn't all time. It took a lot of time. Right. Even Amazon, I would say Amazon took me a few years to finally figure out, okay, here's the best way to do Amazon. Okay. So things take time. Are there exceptions? Are there entrepreneurs that you'll find on social media that just picked it up quick? There are. There really are. And I have great respect for those individuals. I think some people are gifted more than others in reselling, right? But the fact of the matter is you have to be able to understand everything that it encompasses for you to go full time. It's not as simple as just, hey, finding the right items and selling them. There's a whole lot more tied into going full time in no time.
It's good. I agree.
All right. And this last one, I think it's a pretty simple one, but I hear this all the time about passive income.
Yeah. And
is there such thing as passive income at all, you think?
There is passive income, but it's not what a lot of people think. Like, you can. So let's say you have enough productive property, intellectual rights to something. Let's say you own the copyright on something, and you got money trickling in. Right.
Okay.
You do something one time and then money trickles in. And here's another example. For instance, I'll give you like a practical. So there was, when I first started getting into buying stocks, I'm really big on value investing and buying drip stocks and buying stocks that have dividend stocks. And so just to give you an example, if you buy, when I first started, I don't know what the numbers are now because I don't have a lot of AT&T, but when I first got into it, I was buying AT&T, and for about every $100, a little bit under $100, I was making a little bit over $3 a year in dividends. That's a 3% return. So if you've got $100 invested, you're making $3. You got 1,000, you're making 30. If you get it all the way up to $1 million, you're making $30,000 a year, right? And you still own that capital. Like, and as the stock goes up, you're still making money. So if you could live off of, let's say you had $2 million, your parents just gave you $2 million when you were young, you invested all in AT&T or some dividend stock, and you're making 60 grand a year for the rest of your life. You don't have to do anything. And you're not even touching the capital. Yeah, that's passive income. Mm-hmm. But the idea that it's easy to get, I mean, think about that, $2 million in order to have enough passive income to like make an okay living. And of course, there's ways to make more than that. But if you're thinking that you're going to be able to like pull in 6 figures off passive income, the amount of capital or the amount of an intellectual property that you own to be making that kind of money is astronomical. Like, I mean, maybe if you're a musician that was really famous and you put out a bunch of albums that are still selling, you're making a living off of passive income. But at some point you put in the work or you had enough capital. So it's not just like, hey, join my program and you're going to make passive income. Like, that is passive income means your money's working for you. And the more money you have working for you, yeah, the more money you're going to have coming in. But unless somebody says, hey, you're a multimillionaire, let me invest your money and you'll be making passive income, I could believe that, of like, all right, I could live off passive income if I've got enough little soldiers doing my work for me, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're like, pay $100 for this course and I'm going to have passive income, no.
Yeah. And so in reselling, you hear this a lot. And I think everything we've talked about up until this point kind of disproves this automatically. Like, we don't need to go further into it, right? But there's a lot. There's no such thing as passive income, even with the drop shipping, right? There's still work that needs to be done. And then what if your supplier falls off, right? What if, for example, I mean, during COVID, I think a lot of drop shippers lost money. And I know a lot of drop shippers that lost money because, the supply chain from China broke down. Right now, I know that's a black swan event, but there's a lot of hand-holding. There's a lot of oversight. But there, like I said with Mike, there is a lot of passive income. For example, I know people that do affiliate links and, they've hired people to just take care of those and manage those. And they're okay. They're making money, right? But it requires a lot. It requires a lot of lifting. But in reselling, if you're looking to get passive income from reselling, I don't think it's the right place to try to get passive income. I will say, is this the right word? Your life can become a little more passive. Is that the right word? right? So for example, okay, like when I first started reselling, I did have those 80-hour weeks, right? Especially when I went full time. Now, there's certain days maybe I'll devote 2 hours to reselling. Some days I'll devote 6, and sometimes I may have a 14-hour day. Like today I literally did maybe 45 minutes of work reselling. I had a few items that sold, and I packaged them. I did 0 listing. I did 0 sourcing. I spent time with my kids. I got the podcast to record. Early this morning, I had a class I had to teach. I teach a class once a week. And then I had a bunch of errands I had to run. I just, but it was okay. I wasn't stressed about like, oh man, I have to work right now or I'm not going to make any money. I know the money's going to come in because I have a big enough inventory that I know sales are going to happen. And I know once I get back onto the listings tomorrow and I start listing again heavily, I'm going to be okay. So my life is a little more passive. You'll notice on Instagram stories, I do travel more as the weather gets warmer, right? And so I'm not always locked into listing all the time. And so, yes, can you get a little bit more passive? Sure. But it took a lot of work for me to get there, right? And again, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a super wealthy guy. I do well. I'm okay. I pay the bills and a little more and I enjoy my life. And my life is a little more passive, but it took a lot for me to get to that place.
Nice. And we're about ready to get into our Hustle of the Week section. But before we get there, I just want to let you know what we're going to be talking about next. And it's some of my biggest pet peeves. And it's the hate that people give towards resellers. And man, it really grates me when people have negative things to say about resellers. And it comes from a place of them not understanding what reselling is. So we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. But before we get there, let's move on.
Come on, hustlers.
Hustles of the Week.
It's the freaking hustle of the week.
Yeah. So our first hustle comes from Frank, IG handle at I keep it so real.
There's an underscore in between.
Yep. Underscore at the it. So he had a deli slicer pop up on Facebook Marketplace for $225. So he let the person know to contact him if he had any other items to sell. So he sold a probably going to say this wrong, Barisba SE12 gravity feed manual meat cheese turkey deli slicer for $1,189 plus 89 cents and shipping. Delivered it locally though, which is nice. So man, that is that's a sell. You got to, I mean, unless you're in the industry and like I know for a fact I can sell this restaurant equipment, because that's really what that is. This is like restaurant quality equipment. So maybe you had some background knowledge, but yeah, like the big items like that, and the fact that you paid $225 for and you sold it for $1,100, that's a win.
And there's a couple of things too. It's risky because this was during COVID, right? So there's a lot of restaurant machinery that's on clearance right now that's on sale because maybe we're just talking about California, but I know in California there's a lot, right? And on top of that, I do like the pricing there, $89.89, right? So was he trying to like separate himself from the competition?
You get in someone's head. It's all the little things you can do.
Right. So thank you, Frank, for sharing that one.
Yeah. So real.
All right. So we have a repeat hustle of the week. I thought Cosmic Deal Heather, who one time we called Cosmic Deal Hunter.
AKA Cosmic Deal Hunter.
So I needed to bring her back because this was just astounding. And by the way, these individuals, if you're not following, you need to follow them. I will tell you, yesterday, Heather had an IG story about how to fix a DVD recorder. I've never even seen anybody do that. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, how many have I passed up because the DVD little thing tray didn't open, and she knows how to fix. I would never even open one up. You open things up every once in a while. I wouldn't. But anyways, so Heather was at a toy area at a thrift store and spotted a Yu-Gi-Oh card launcher.
Nice.
Do you know what those look like?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I'm trying to describe it, but it just, I don't know. It looks like something you would put on your arm and cards launch out of it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right.
It's like a Spider-Man thing, but it shoots cards instead.
Okay. All right. So now Heather has a knowledge base because she developed this, info from working at a toy store. Still, it loves animation and has kids. And again, I do believe that if you follow, whatever your nephews or nieces are doing, if you have your own kids, like you will come across a lot of money items. So pay $3 for this Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Academy dual disc card launcher. sold in 4 days. Now, here's the thing. The comps were 150. She decided to list it to the moon. That's her new listing to the moon now.
Yeah, that's pretty original. I don't know if anybody's ever like said that before.
All right, so,
To the moon.
to the moon. So Heather listed it to the moon, sold in 4 days for $250, from $3 to $250. And if I saw this toy, go follow her, go find this Instagram post, I would have been like, yeah, this is junk. I'm not even gonna look this up. That is nice.
I look up everything, man. That's great. Good job, Heather. Our next one is Shonda, IG handle at Secondhand Hustle. So someone was throwing away a set of plastic nativity pieces, and one of them was a vintage 27-inch Empire Shepherd and Sheep Christmas nativity plastic blow mold, and sold it for $200, and sold 4 on Facebook for $400. And the sale was at the end of February. I'm not 100% sure what that means there, but anyway,
No, meaning that these sold after Christmas.
Okay, so I get that part, but so one of them sold for $200, and then 4 others sold for $400. Okay,
yeah.
so $600 total profit for something somebody was throwing away. That's trash to cash. That's almost this is almost like we could. So Shonda, you could probably be your own guru and say like you can just go to trash and make $600 in one day because you did it. And those things do happen. Like this right here is a hustle. And if you're out there and you're looking and you find the right stuff, you can definitely get it. But that's why we call these hustles, because that's legit.
Yeah, agreed.
What's your hustle?
So before we talk about Hustle of the Week, let's talk a little bit about one of our sponsors, Skull Shaver. Right? They're keeping us clean, keeping us ready for the podcast. And so if you haven't had a chance yet to try out these skull shavers and you're thinking about shaving your head and looking dapper, go to skullshaver.com, use our promo code PURE to get that discount. Also, thank you to all of you that have continued to support us on buymeacoffee.com/purehustle. It's been really awesome. It's allowed us to step away and create more of these YouTube videos. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. And if you hadn't had a chance yet to help us on buymeacoffee.com/purehustle, there's a link below. It definitely helps us continue to produce not only the podcast now, but YouTube videos to be able to help all of you and help others that are looking to get into reselling. So really grateful for all of you that helped us out there. And if you haven't been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter and Clubhouse. You can always give us a call, 619-738-1170, 619-738-1170. You know, it'd be nice to do like a YouTube of like phone calls. I mean, not super long. It'd be like 10, 15 minutes, but some of like the most interesting questions or stories or something to that effect.
Yeah, just send in just voicemails, man. We want to hear some voices.
Okay. And we're just lonely. And if you ever want to shoot us an email, purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. That's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And like I said already, if you haven't yet, we're continuing looking to produce more YouTube videos. So make sure to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, hit that bell notification so you know when things are being, dropped. Sometimes we might drop randomly.
Yeah.
And then last of all, thank you for all the iTunes reviews. Really help us out. We're at the 400 club and we're looking to get people into the 500 club. So thank you so much. All right, Mike, what is your hustle of the week?
Oh man, you're switching this up. All right.
Am I? Was I supposed to share something else?
No, it was you usually do your hustle first.
Okay, I could do mine.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Yours then.
You sometime.
Don't mess me up. Oh, I have mine, but
I need to give my disclaimer based on the climate of our country. So
no, don't do that. Don't apologize.
Don't apologize. Okay, no apologies here. Okay, so I was sourcing at a thrift store. Now, I didn't know that this would be as valuable as it was, but there was some value. So I came across, and there was this Rush Limbaugh book from the 1990s. It was with the Autopen autograph. It was in the hardbound slipcovers. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And it was sealed, and it was $4 at the thrift store.
Nice.
Now I found this about a month ago, and I looked it up, and it was selling for $50. And I thought, all right, I'll source it. I'll pick up any book, right? As long as well, not any book, but I'll pick up most books, and I was good with it. And so I went home and I listed it, and it was sitting there. And then, I usually check on current events and news, and I saw a notification that Rush Limbaugh had passed away. And usually when people pass away, value of items go up because people that find somebody endearing or a hero or somebody they look up to. Like they want those items. And so, we talked about this. We have a whole episode about this. So the moment I saw that, I raised the price to $250, just going, hey, I wonder, if people really are looking for this book, we'll buy it. Because I automatically saw on eBay, like people were raising prices. Sure enough, within a half hour, I sold the book.
Nice.
Okay. So $4 into, I think I had it on sale. So it sold for like $212 plus shipping. The person was very happy to get the book. It arrived, no problem. Everything was good. So I want to let you guys know, because this is one of the things we're going to talk about, the hater myths, is that people sometimes are like, oh, you're exploiting a situation or you're taking advantage. Listen, that individual, it did not matter to them, right? That person greatly, cared about this person. They wanted it to have it in their personal library. At that time, it was no big deal, and they bought it and they're happy with it. If they truly were not happy, if they felt that they were exploited or that I took advantage of them, I have a 30-day return policy. They could have returned it. No return, no discussion, no comment, just a thank you. Really much appreciate the fact that this was available. So that was my hustle of the week. You just never know, right? That at that point in time, it was just a luck thing, right? Came across something. I mean, it's all the people that had all that Kobe stuff. They had it for a long time. I sold Kobe stuff. My Kobe stuff sold within minutes, just because I didn't know what was going on until my stuff started selling. So, I'm not saying be on the lookout for anything, but just be aware that certain scenarios allow you to be able to create these moments in time where certain things will be more profitable.
That's good. Mine is actually a weird one because as many of you already know, if you watch our show, my wife and I are pregnant again, and we've got another little boy on the way. And
did I know it was a boy?
I think so. Yeah, we said his name was Titus on the episode.
Sorry, I have a lot of friends that are pregnant.
Look at this. This guy doesn't even know. That's messed up. That hurts my feelings.
Listen. I
Are we
was the
even
guy.
Friends anymore,
I was the guy having kids in my early 20s. Okay,
I get
so to me, it's like, now everybody I know is now having kids, and so I can't keep track of it. So I apologize.
Honestly,
you are a good friend, Mike.
If it's not my kid, I don't care anyway. So I totally get that. So anyways, we bought off Amazon. So we had a coupon. It was on sale, like some kind of a deal. We had some kind of a coupon, and something else happened. So we bought this like diaper bag. It was a Herschel diaper bag. And we ended up getting it for like a ridiculously stupid price with all the coupons and discounts and the sale that it was on. And we ended up getting it for like $12 or something. And it's normally like a $80 bag. And so we're like, this is sweet. And we got it, and it was too big. Like it was like, oh, this is not like us. It's a nice bag, but it's just not us. And so we could have returned it to Amazon and got $12 back, but it was like, at that point, I just keep it for $12. I'll throw it away for $12. So like, let's just list it on eBay. So we listed on eBay, and we ended up making over $80 on it.
Whoa!
Right. So
more than the retail.
More than the retail. Yeah. Maybe the prices went up, or that was maybe they were like clearancing them. That's why it was so low, and it wasn't on Amazon anymore. I don't know. But we just listed it, and so the reason it's a hustle is because sometimes you can take items that are your own. Like you buy something and it doesn't work out, and when your first thought is, I wonder how much I could sell it for. Right. That's how like you're a reseller. Like this isn't just, you walk into other people's houses. I'm sure everyone's experienced this, and you're looking around and you're like eBay checking in your head, like, okay, what would that sell for? What would that sell for? Especially if it's like a relative, like a grandparent or something. You're like, ooh, they've got to have some cool stuff in here. And you're like eBaying like their stereo system. Like, what does this sell for? But when you're doing that, even with your own things, and you're like, I should throw this out. What would it sell for? Right. And so if you're a hustler, you're always thinking about selling. You're always thinking about a way to turn a profit. And that's why it is my hustle of the week.
There we go. So, hey, thank you to all of you. Thank you, Frank. I keep it _so real. Thank you, Heather at Cosmic Deal Heather. And thank you, Shonda at Secondhand Hustle, all on Instagram. By the way, if you have Hustle of the Week on Twitter or on Facebook, even hit us up on TikTok, like tag us. We'd love to share on it from other platforms. So let us know. All right.
Things are going to get heated now.
They are.
This is where I get really angry.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about hit or myths. I got 5 of them. Okay. Now we're going to hit hard with one that, may be controversial. I don't know. But the idea that reselling is unethical. And I'm hearing this more and more.
Yeah. And I think, okay, so there's that one and the next one I think are kind of closely related. So I think most of my heat's going to come on the second part, but unethical, and then we're going to like narrow into specific how unethical it is. But yeah, like a lot of people think of like, I mean, I've got lots of friends that are like, I can't believe you would buy toys and then sell them for more expensive. And then at Christmas time, people can't find the toy for their kid. And it's just so wrong of you. But if I were to walk into Target and if resellers didn't exist, there'd just be an abundance of toys. Or the other one that you get a lot of, and I see on Twitter, when we very first started, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do the Twitter thing. And I'm like, all right, see, how does this work? You put a hashtag and you search them all. Hashtag reselling, hashtag thrift store. And like, I'm seeing like half the stuff on there was like, can you believe people are stealing from poor people by buying at thrift stores and selling it online? These scumbags. And I'm like, ooh, people don't like us.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so I'll let you touch on the toy one. I'll touch on the thrift one, because that one to me has never made sense from the beginning. Right. So there's several articles that, reselling has led to the gentrification of thrift store. Gentrification usually is when a wealthier population moves into the area and it pushes poor people out because prices go up and poor people can no longer afford things. So there's arguments being made about thrift stores concerning that. Now, again, this to me is a self-evident truth, just as it is when we were talking about the gurus before. All you need to go to dispel this myth is just ask a person, come to a thrift store with me and let's go look through the racks and look through the shoes and look through all the inventory. And you will always find inventory there. Because here's the thing. Resellers are not looking for the day-to-day items that people need. Right? I'm looking for the Harley gear, right? And most of the time, a person that isn't in a good socioeconomic place, they don't necessarily have a Harley. Right? Unless all their money is going into that Harley, right? They have a family. I mean, even myself, I thought about getting a Harley Davidson earlier on in my life, even though I didn't know how to ride a bike. I thought about getting one, and it just wasn't in the cards. Why? Because that would have been a toy. It wouldn't have been something that my family needed, right? And so here's the thing. I'm looking for Harley Davidson, right? I'm looking for, Danner boots. I'm looking, what's some other stuff I saw? I'm looking for Rain Spooner Hawaiian shirts. Okay. These aren't items, right, that people in need are looking for. I have not seen a lot of, people that are struggling financially wearing Rain Spooner shirts.
Yeah. And right? that kind of goes to the idea of like, if you look through a rack, you might pick one out of every 100 items if you're lucky. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we walk into a store and take everything out of the store, and now somebody comes in and it's like, you can't find a jacket, you can't find a pair of shoes. So that's a bad thing. And the other thing is like you're providing a service, right? Because you're connecting people to things, right? You're connecting people to something that brings them joy, that makes them happy at a thrift store, something like that. So you're connecting people to stuff. You're providing a service. And I mean, you wouldn't, like, if you were to take it to its extreme, because this really, like, reselling is kind of like in the middle of like these two extremes. And so the one extreme would be, let's say somebody found at a thrift store like a Van Gogh, or I don't know, like some like really rare thing that needs to be in a museum, or like some piece of history, and they find it in the thrift store and they recognize this is a piece of history. They buy it from the thrift store and they like submit it to the Smithsonian, and now like other people can view it, right? No one's going to say like you robbed somebody of being able to own this like Van Gogh in their house, or like, whatever it is. And it's like, no, like you're providing us, like you literally connected this item to where it's going to be most treasured and most valued. And that's really what resellers are doing, is we're trying to find items that might actually be not valued and treasured enough in just to anybody. And you're connecting maybe a piece of history or memory or something, like you've sold like hats from old, like a restaurant or something. Mm-hmm. And someone's like, I worked at that restaurant. I've looked for this hat forever. And so you're connecting people, and we love when that happens. And if you're just, a person walking in, you want a hat, you don't care which hat it is. You're just picking whichever one fits and looks good. And so you don't have that emotional attachment to it. So yeah, reselling is, and you're not stealing from anybody. You're just not.
Well, and there's this false assumption that these thrift stores have been created to help the poor. Now, there was a time when that was the case.
And there still are some that are like that.
And there are some that are like that. It's true. But the major ones that we go to, the store that shall not be named, or the Savers, or even the Salvo, all those places.
I don't know. Salvo's pretty good.
They're pretty good. But but they're using those funds to create programs to help impoverished people, right? So they are pricing things higher in expectations that resellers will come in and will buy those higher price items.
Yeah, they take that money and they do something with it, which is the point. I mean, sometimes
so resellers are helping those organizations to continue to help greater amount of people. Right. So it's an ecosystem that's been developed to help others. And so the argument falls apart once you take away that false assumption that, hey, that's what these were created for. They're created to create businesses that are nonprofit, but the profit that they do make allow for these nonprofit programs to continue. So as much as the store that shall not be named gets a lot of hate, and we have had some posts on Insta that have created some heated discussions, the store that shall not be named is trying to maximize the profits. And we can get into a whole discussion about CEO salaries and all that. I want to step away from that. I want to take a look at, okay, they do create a lot of programs to create jobs for individuals that normally wouldn't be able to get jobs at, day-to-day workplaces. And so in the end, it is creating a greater good by resellers going in there and purchasing these high-priced items that usually most people would pass over because people that want these items do not want to walk into a thrift store. So like Mike had said, circling back, we're connecting buyers to items that they're looking for.
Yep. Very good. All right. This next one I'm going to spend a little bit of time on because this one is the one that really frustrates me. So the idea that reselling is price gouging. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think unless it's extremely rare circumstances, and there's probably very few of them that anybody's ever really experienced in our modern time, there is no price gouging. Price gouging doesn't exist. And people think that anytime something is more expensive than they want it to be, that's price gouging. And that's simply not the case. So let me define, at least in my terms, what I think price gouging is. I think the only instances I would say it's price gouging is if it's a government controlled program or a true monopoly, like a real true monopoly. And if you were to say the government were to buy all of the water in the potable water in the country that you can get, and then they were to charge you $30 a gallon for it, right? And there's the only way you could get water, and there's no shortage of water, and they know you need it to survive, and it's just their way of sticking it to you. Or a monopoly that comes in, and it's an actual need. It's not just like, hey, there's this place that has a monopoly on, I don't know, like really cool fancy shoes, and they're the number one shoe place and they charge too much. Well, if there's other places you can get shoes, they can charge whatever they want, right? I mean, because it's you're going after what you're looking for. Now, the reality is resellers are filling a need. So capitalism, I believe, is a beautiful thing because over time we've seen that you can't, no one institute or even a panel of institutes can really figure out what the price of an item should be. For instance, like a simple item like wood, like how much should a plank of wood cost? Well, it's going to depend on what it's being used for. And it's going to depend on, well, how much wood is being used for making baseball bats versus homes and an agency can't figure all that out. So what happens is the market figures it out. Well, if people are paying a bunch of money for it for a certain thing, that value goes up and it kind of self-regulates. But sometimes there's a gap in there where it takes a little bit of time for the cost of the item, the supply of it to match the demand. And so resellers come in and we are a unique part of this ecosystem that fills that gap. So for instance, the common one people always talk about, there's a new PlayStation that came out, or there's a new toy that came out, and resellers come up and buy it and then they price gouge, right? Like that's the one you hear all the time.
Pokemon, I mean, it all falls in line, and I'll follow up when you're done with that. But yeah, pretty much right off the bat, scalpers. Yeah,
scalpers, people are price gouging. Well, the idea is, first of all, this is a want. And if I can sell a Pokemon card, if I can sell a toy for $100 and Target's only selling them for $35, that means that the toy is not marked at the proper value, at least temporarily, right? Because if that's how much people are willing to spend for it. Now, if I try to sell it for $1,000 and people are like, there's no way I'm paying that much. So really what you're doing is you're trying to find, what are people really willing to spend for this? And people probably wouldn't be willing to spend $100 for it unless there was a shortage of supply. And so you're filling that gap of there's a higher demand than there is supply. And so I am going to actually raise the price up so that the supply and demand intersect where they should meet. That's the real price of an item. And so resellers fill this gap faster than retailers can do it, faster than a supplier can do it. And the reality is especially when we're talking about price gouging, because we just went through the COVID thing, right? And so people got really upset about stuff like hand sanitizers or masks. When you say, and a lot of times governments have tried this in the past and it flops. If you were to say, you cannot sell things like this at a profit, we're going to try and come in and seem like we're being righteous. And I understand the sentiment behind that. It makes sense to say like, people are starving right now. You can't charge extra for bread. Okay. You can only charge the normal price for bread. Well, what's going to end up happening is there's no incentive for people to fill that demand. There's no incentive. If I can charge $20 for a loaf of bread instead of $1 for a loaf of bread, I'm going to turn whatever resources I have and I'm going to start making bread, and I'm going to get it to people who are hungry because I can make some money off it. And people in other countries are going to say, I'll do whatever I can to get bread to that place because I can make some money off it. Next thing you know, there's no more bread shortage and the prices start to drop. We saw that happen with hand sanitizer. We saw that happen with masks.
There's more hand sanitizer than I know what to do with. Like,
right.
But you go in a store, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. But imagine if the government did this, and they've tried this before in places. In order to stop price gouging, you can only sell hand sanitizer at cost. So you have to be able to prove that your factory made hand sanitizer and it cost 1 penny per ounce. You can only charge for 1 penny per ounce because we want to make sure that people aren't price gouging. Nobody would make hand sanitizer. But because they didn't do that, and because, there was like Amazon tried to stop and eBay tried to stop like resellers to an extent, but because factories recognized, hey, we can fill this need by supplying more. Well, what happened? Now there's abundance. Now the price of hand sanitizer, you can walk in and get a gallon of it for $3, right? Because there's so much of it. And so it actually filled a need because the idea of price gouging, if you try and stop and prevent price gouging, as it were, you're actually doing more harm. What resellers are doing is we're meeting a need and we're finding where does the place where supply and demand intersect. That's the real value of an item, the price people are willing to pay. And we're trying to get the item there as quickly as possible. Yeah,
and even with wants, I mean, I think about the card market right now, and Pokemon specifically. Right now, they've decided to do reprints of their latest, I forget what do you call them, collections, right? Well, that's because they're trying to meet a need, right? They understand there's a lot of collectors out there that want these Pokemon cards, and so they're going to create more now, and it makes it available, right? And eventually, the markets self-regulate. Right? Prices begin to drop and it's available for everyone.
And sometimes the resellers are the ones that actually take the brunt of that because they speculated wrongly and now they're stuck with a bunch of items.
Oh yeah, which is happening too. Yeah. I mean, right now, even the sports card market in some ways is taking a dip. There are certain cards that were worth several $1,000s, 2-3 weeks ago, and now they've dropped to several hundred. There's some that you could buy that people paid thousands a year ago, expecting the market to go up, and now it's not worth what they thought, right? And so this idea of price gouging, it's directly connected to this idea of meeting the need, right? Being the middleman. That's what we are. We are middlemen, people that are trying to connect individuals with the items that they want. And we're driven by the fact that, hey, we can make profits from this. And so we're going to go out there and we're going to get these goods to get them to the people that are looking for them.
And everybody does it. Like the idea that this is just something resellers do. Like if anybody's worked in a movie industry, you know this. And when I say movie industry, I mean like literally like theater. And when I say theater, I mean like AMC, right? Or something like that. Like you worked at a movie theater. So if you worked at a movie theater, a lot of times, and where I grew up, we even had a dollar theater where you can go watch a movie for $1. And so it was like super cheap. But the popcorn is, $6.50 for a bag, and then it's $8.
Which costs like 25 cents a pop.
And that's the thing. That's where they make their money from. So realistically, somebody could say they are price gouging. They're charging $6.50 for popcorn and $4 for Coke. And literally that they're only paying for, the cup and the bag and
I think
a little bit
price gouging though.
But see,
I'm just messing around.
But that's the thing is if they were saying, you can come watch our movie, but we're going to charge you $500 for popcorn and soda. Nobody would do it, right? Yeah. So they had to find the place where people would go, oh man, that sucks, but it's worth it for the movie. And so so nobody's looking at at Target and saying, wait a minute, Target only paid $1 for this shirt because they bought hundreds of thousands of them and they're trying to sell it for $10. They are price gouging. It's like, no, that's the point is they're trying to figure out what people would actually pay for it. How can they make a profit? How can the supplier make a profit? And resellers, for some reason, catch a lot of just crap for this when, we're doing the same thing everybody's doing.
Yeah, it's Econ 101.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what it is. So, all right.
Yeah, I got heated on that. Sorry, but man, that really bugs me because it's, people don't know. They don't get it.
Free markets to the core. All right. This one, I have a personal beef with because I have proven this and disproven it to people all the time when people say reselling is not a real job. And I understand I probably would have I did fall in line with this. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I was in college, I had a roommate that was making all kinds of money on eBay. And I'm like, why don't you get a real job? Right? Now it's like, wait a second. So there's an assumption here that money can be made. And so we don't need to go into this too much. But again, the truth is self-evident, right? If you are able to understand the basics of reselling, that hey, if I let's just blow this whole, like, let's say minimum wage gets to $15, which in the end, right? If you, I'm always a believer, if you're not happy with the situation you're in, then get out of that situation and find a better situation, right? Don't depend on someone to raise a wage for you. Don't depend on someone to give you a better position. You be the owner of your own destiny. And this is the same thing with reselling. Reselling allows you to make more money, and you will find people over and over and over again that stepped out of the corporate world. They got into reselling. They figured out the math, right? All you have to do is self-evident. You tell an individual, hey, let's take a look at eBay. Let's take a look at these items. Okay, if you go to the thrift store, you can pay $5 for these and you can sell these for $30, right? And if I just sold 10 of these a day, I can make more money than pretty much most people on average in the country. Right now, that money goes to different places depending on where you live. In California, obviously, I need to make a lot more money, right? This is why I still live in a condo. This is why I'm still frugal, because it takes a lot more for me to live in California.
Yeah, I mean, price, I might post this on Instagram. I don't know, because it, kind of connects, but prices of gas have gone up in San Diego. What is it? The last 28 days straight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're actually running low on battery. I'm not connected to a battery, so we gotta hurry this up.
Oh, we'll make it. So we're at 365, I think, right now for gas.
No, it's 385, I think.
385. Okay, but again, reselling has opened up. This has been really anecdotal, but there's plenty of data. I mean, I think everyone in COVID experience of people that were really successful. You look at the e-commerce, you look at the data, you can find all kinds of data of this. You just Google reselling during COVID, e-commerce. It's definitely changed things, where now resellers that actually made out better than individuals that were working certain jobs during the pandemic. Okay.
That's true.
All right. This next one, after all the fees, there's no money to be made.
Ain't wrong. We both make money. There's lots of money.
Here's the thing. A lot of people complain about eBay and they complain about the fees on eBay. But here's the thing. eBay gives you access to at least 82 million active buyers. On your own, there's no way you could do that. You can open up your website. You can open your Shopify. You're still going to be paying for ads to get traffic to your site to be able to sell your goods, right? And so, yes, fees may go up. Yes, in this last spring seller update, which we'll talk about on an update episode, yes, more fee talk. Okay, but ultimately, it still gives you access where you can make a good amount of money reselling. So fees, think about it. You're paying 10%, 12% on items that you're still able to make a lot of profit and able to sell to the wider world.
That's good.
And this last one, this touches close to home. There's more security in a 9 to 5.
I would say this is half true. I think COVID has shown us that there's no such thing as 100% stable job, right? A lot of people in very stable businesses, stable industries recognize that, anything could upset the fruit basket, and anything could happen to you. Anything could happen to your company. Like there's a lot of things that can happen. I think what businesses do provide a lot of times is here's your 401k. We're taking care of that for you. Here's your insurance. We're taking care of that for you. Here's, there's a lot of deferred benefits that come with a 9 to 5 job. But again, none of those things are 100% set in stone, because even a union job in an industry that seems like, how could this ever go anywhere, could find itself collapsing under a black swan event.
See, I disagree. I think there's, I agree with what you're saying, but I disagree in the overall picture that I do believe there's greater security in reselling. This is why. There are always buyers and there's always items that people want. And as long as you have access to those items and you can sell them to the people that want them, they'll be there. And we saw that through the pandemic. We've seen that through recessions. We've heard people talk about the 08 recession. In a 9-to-5, you are always dispensable. There's always somebody to replace you and you can always be forgotten. Always. Guaranteed. No matter what kind of work you're doing, right? There's always thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people that can replace what you're doing. And so to me, reselling is a go-to that can always, no matter what, even if I jump back into the 9-to-5 world, I always know that reselling is there. I can't say with reselling, there's always a 9-to-5 there for me. And that's why I make that argument. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
all right. So, hey, before we get shut down, I want to end this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to check out American Bubble Boy.
Yeah.
And as always, make sure to be real,
Be relevant.
and be reselling. Late.
Peace.